Hi, we are coming to you live from Washington, D.C. at the 9th Annual Auto-ISAC Cybersecurity Conference. So, gentlemen, I've been working in this space for about 14 years, and it has been a complete evolution from very nascent early days in automotive cybersecurity, about the time that the Auto-ISAC was stood up, Josh, to today. There has been a significant amount of technological change at a very quick clip. Can you share, Sanch, and I'm going to look at you first. Can you share a little bit about what your clients are seeing in the industry and what you're primarily focusing on?
Absolutely. So, I mean, if we think from our perspective, and specifically talking about AI and cybersecurity intersection, I feel like we should look at it from an organization standpoint, because a lot of companies started their journey a couple of years back. And I think the motive was looking at high value ROI impact use cases that would give them true bottom line impact. So, obviously heart of the business issues like manufacturing, supply chain, customer experience, they were the prominent use cases. But as a few years have gone by, I think companies are realizing cybersecurity is actually going to be even more important, not just because of the threat landscape changing, the amount of data now we collect from vehicles, connected vehicles, but all the things that are comprehensive of a complete automotive ecosystem. So from that standpoint, the cyber use cases that we are seeing in our clients had largely been around analysis of documents, and analyzing high volume data for predictive analysis and stuff like that. So if you specifically look at cybersecurity, the very important use cases that we've seen our clients adopt have been threat detection and response, where you can analyze a lot of threat intelligence data, vulnerability analysis, where you have enormous amount of data coming from all these assets that companies have. That AI makes that easy for you to analyze and turn it into actionable intelligence. The other area that we've seen is SOC modernization. Tier 1 analysts can now use AI to expedite their work, analyzing the incidents and alerts and things like that. And then compliance has been an interesting area where now you can analyze SOC 2 reports and various compliance documents, map them to standards and regulations and stuff like that. So those have been the early use cases, but the more transformational use cases, as we call them, where the real value lies, which is looking at digital twins to simulate real world attack scenarios, or core security engineering, where AI can actually do the engineering for you from a security standpoint. And those are more aspirational right now, more in pilot phases. I think companies are still dabbling with those use cases. But, I think most of our organizations are keeping their eye on these transformational use cases while trying to just, get these early low-hanging fruits out there and get the benefits.
You teed us up perfectly, because I think every buzzword that we hear a lot about in the industry right now is in your pitch right there, right? So we talked about threats, we talked about data, we're talking about AI, we're talking about holistic industry transformation. I'm going to look at Josh right now, because as the threat analyst professional on the panel and sort of keeping your finger on the pulse of the ISAC community, what do you think has changed over the last couple of years that is really a defining moment?
Different categories of change that we're probably talking about. One is the threat that AI poses to our members and to those that are working to protect their assets. There is also a wide gap in capabilities to address these threats. So some companies have more intelligence ready at their disposal at their own companies, more personnel than others. So AI has been, I think, in some instances, a way to sort of expedite the level of information you can get to the fingertips of those that want to know it, that need to read it. But I think that there's also been some maybe expectations on what AI is going to be able to bring, and I am not quite sure that the industry fully understands what that means. And I think that that's where we're probably looking at is the next several years, really comprehending what AI can do for us, and both just a personnel assistance standpoint and a threat intelligence generation standpoint.
I have to imagine, Nick, that you can explain all of this to us, right? GCP has a position on this. I've heard the buzzword of AI ready.
Sure.
What does that really mean, in your opinion?
Great question, because we need to look past some of the hype cycle, right? You use the term buzzwords. I think that's perfect, because we have to get through the sales pitch and get down to brass tacks when we think about AI-ready data, when we think about governance, when we think about security, and ultimately we think about infrastructure. These are typically the basket words that we think about for being AI-ready. AI-ready data, the quality of the data is extremely important, and that is going to be largely predicated on the task that you want the AI to do. So the quality of the data has to match the outcome that you're expecting, so that you can draw meaningful insights using AI ML technology from very large data sets, as Sachin pointed out. As we move to governance, at the jump, organizations really should have a governance board in place. Whether or not you are making big investments in the technology, a responsible use policy should be developed and promulgated to your employees. So if we think about people, process, and technology, that's a very important overlap of the people and the process there, acceptable use. As we move into security, I think we can all agree here, bad actors are using AI already. Okay, so the only way to beat a bad actor that's using AI is to be a good actor using better AI to stay ahead of this power curve. And fortunately, that's possible when partnering with professional services organizations, with hyperscalers, and to complement your own in-house efforts. And then finally, on infrastructure, your compute infrastructure is going to be different. In some cases, it will be more expensive. Your stack should be optimized for the massive calculations that have to be done to effectively use AI and ML. And that technical solution really should be scalable with your business. And as we think about the rush to embrace AI over the past couple of years, I think we touched on that folks are now catching up to the need for security as well. That absolutely cannot be a place to cut corners, both securing AI and then security with AI.
So on the governance side, what would that look like? And I guess I'll ask all of you, but I'm going to look to you as the official consultant of this panel. What would you recommend? Are there any tidbits that you could share with the listener about what a governance body should look like, or what the practice should be?
Absolutely. I think that's been the theme here at Auto-ISAC. I'm sure you guys have heard it since the morning sessions. But responsible AI, how we use it, having a governance process, I think is paramount to adoption of AI. So at Deloitte, what we did was a few years back, we basically adopted a framework we call Trust for the AI, largely influenced by the frameworks that you see, but we released it a lot before most of the frameworks that came out. But essentially, it's like a 7-pillar framework that talks about fairness of the models that you're building, accountability, responsibility, transparency, security, privacy, and being private, and then finally being reliable. Framework is built on these 7 pillars, and as you can see, like security is one of the pillars of this capability. And most of the organizations, I think, are now starting to realize that they need to have a framework, first of all, to start with. And to your point, like, I think when we talk to our clients, what we recommend is a simple 4-step process. Establish that multidisciplinary cross-functional team that is representing the 7 pillars. It cannot just be security, it cannot just be IT. Establish a framework. Use all the leading standards out there, define your framework, and most importantly, enhance your SDLC, because the traditional SDLC is not going to be able to do this for you. The third simple thing is to make sure you are doing your training and awareness, because people is going to be the most important aspect of it. Any good controls framework, having a back-end monitoring process and having an auditable process would really go a long way.
So we're teasing out really secure deployment in that same conversation, that how to set it up, how to ensure security. Really, I'd be curious to know, Josh, from your point of view, your perspective, within the ISAC, are we having conversations in the community today about that secure deployment? I know cybersecurity overall was always secure by design. How does AI play into that, or where does it fit into the narrative?
Well, I think secure by design is the optimal. It's not always the case, though.
Sure.
Yeah, there is quite a few conversations around, how we're going to employ AI in our own environments, at the company level, at the ISAC level, even. and how to do that securely. So there's a lot of trust involved in adopting any technology that's outside of your organization, coming from a third party. And I think AI being such a new kind of introduced capability, we're moving really rapidly in building these things. So having some, maybe in your governance structure, some real validation capability to both understand, probably narrow the scope of what your expectations are out of that tool, having some review process of the tool itself, the back end of that tool, the ability to have confidence that it's not going to open up your threat landscape, rather help you close it. I think that's a really important part of it, and something that I hear a lot of conversations at the, like the CISO level around.
Well, I want to say, in speaking of buzzwords, I'm going to use that term again. One of the words that has recently been, and it's one of my favorite things that we do at Upstream, it's part of our platform, is our digital twin. But I recently was in a meeting with an unnamed customer. I don't want to say softly rolled their eyes at the notion of digital twins, because they interpreted it more as a marketing position and not necessarily as a capability position. So I'm wondering, at GCP, you must have some sort of definitive moment where you talk about what a digital twin really is and why and how it can empower a customer to understand their position, cybersecurity or otherwise.
And this is technology that we use ourselves to model everything from networks to our build strategies for data centers, construction, and things like that. It can be a very low cost and very secure way of modeling change. It is at its best when its 3D user experience or interface is fully enabled to make it digestible. When it's AI enabled to look at all sorts of different change for incurrence of risk, and really to model the various outcomes to inform decisions, because that's really what it is. Everything that we're discussing about is human-machine partnering to get to better decisions and prescriptive analysis.
I love that. It's like you read our marketing material. Oh. Did. Completely agnostic. So if you could share some thoughts from the ISAC point of view in relation to digital twins, is that a tool that you're seeing the members use, or are you yourself and your team using digital twinning in terms of like understanding threats, or is that not something that necessarily on the radar?
I mean, I can see how it could be useful in our members' environment. In the Auto-ISAC Intelligence Analysis Division, we are, generating this information as we see it come in. So we're on the search for it. We're not really testing against known attacks. You don't have to build anything to try and break. In that sense, which makes our job a little bit easier. But on the SOC level, I think that it could be a useful tool for sure.
We're seeing a live conversation as of late around API security in particular. And I'm sure everybody's tracking the same sort of headlines and things that we're seeing on our side. I'm curious, where does API security fit into GCP and Deloitte? And I'm sure at the ISAC level, is there a subcommittee, or how is API specifically being, I don't want to say segmented in the conversation, but uniquely discussed? Or is it? Maybe it's not. Is it being under the umbrella of IT security? Where is API falling?
I'll take that first, if you don't mind. Yeah. API is a huge threat landscape at this point. There's no avoiding it, I think, with the connected vehicle. So it is a broad point of discussion around vulnerabilities, especially. And it's generally third parties that are creating these connectivity points. It's not necessarily the original company that's employing them, right? And speaking to AI, I wouldn't be surprised if that's being used to help develop some of this stuff. So I think that there's it's hard to get your mind around where all your API points are, as a matter of fact. So, utilizing some technology to help assist with that could be good. But the conversation writ large is that this is a real area of concern. Sure. That needs a lot more attention. And as we were saying before, secure by design, again, is the ideal. And these are not always being built with that in mind.
Forever tug of war between innovation and security. Would you have any recommendations, Sachin, on how to better balance innovation against security?
I think what we've seen as consultants trying to help our clients achieve secure by design, I think we've heard that term a lot here. But if you put it in practice, we are essentially saying we'll secure by default, which makes your job a little bit easier because you don't have to then go discover APIs and figure out where things are falling, right? So having that mindset, and then it does take a bit of work. I mean, it's not easy to do. We all know that. But having that mindset up front will actually help and reduce total cost of ownership and reduce the risk significantly.
Well, what about at GCP? I imagine you're doing a ton of innovation just on your own, and you're working with other customers who are.
Absolutely, and a prevailing theme in talking to client CISOs is they're kind of bristling at the perception. Okay, your division is where fun goes to die, right? So we have to shift that mindset a little bit from being a blocker to being a critical enabler. And the old, measure twice, cut once mentality, that really works well here. And that really kind of doubles down on the importance of that governance board and cross-functional representation on that board. So the business as well as cybersecurity interests and equities are represented there. And why there may be some delay, but it's a pause for a cause that is going to make outcomes better and more secure in the long run.
Oh, I love that. Well, I think we are at the end of our conversation today, gentlemen, but I do want to get a final closing thought from each of you. So if you have any, I don't want to do the what keeps you up at night. I don't like that question. So if you have any words of encouragement for people in this community that are learning to balance or working on developing their own innovative technologies for automotive using artificial intelligence, can you leave them with a final thought on how to best move forward in that capacity?
Sure, and I'll share that with my personal experience of doing this AI capability build up for the last 2 years and being knee deep in it. Data is going to be your best friend.
Yes.
So if you are building a project plan, please make sure there is enough time to cleanse your data, test against your data. Can I say it enough?
Yeah, very good.
I love that on the quality of the data. I'd also add to that an issue of compliance. As we sit here in September of 2025, it is a rapidly changing landscape. So how you collect, aggregate, analyze, and then ultimately use that data is changing through various jurisdictions. So when we think about scalability into different markets, that is something that needs to be considered as well, whether you're in GDPR land or JPAC or Northam or wherever. That absolutely should be part of the conversation.
True, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Jack? Yeah.
I guess I'd just say, manage your expectations of what you can get out of it in a realistic fashion upfront. Don't expect too much of it. It's, AI is great at doing some menial tasks. If this, then this. But expecting it to provide some human context into what it's producing, it might be a little bit of a stretch at this point, certainly. So just know what you're going to use it for and use it to what it's doing best.
I loved one of the sentiments from a presenter earlier today at the conference, and I can't remember who it was. You're going to have to go back and tell them who. But she said something to the effect of artificial intelligence today is the dial-up of internet in the years gone by, meaning it would only become more advanced and better as the years go on. And here we are sitting in awe and amazement of things that ChatGPT or others like it can do. And it's only going to become more integrated into our lives and better and more accurate. And so it's a really exciting time to be in automotive and to embrace AI. And so thank you all. Did you?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a flip side to that too. When it was dial up, there was only a few people that knew how to crack into that system. Now that we're off of that, there's a whole lot of people that do know how to use. So as we grow with AI capabilities, the threat landscape is likely to expand, and the threat actor capabilities are likely to expand.
Leave it to the threat analyst to bring us on a down.
That's a bit.
You got another final thought?
So that's a very good point, because then we teach our practitioners on responsible AI. The term we tend to use at Deloitte is, it's not just AI for cyber, it's also cyber for AI. So you got to keep the yin and yang together.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sanchit. It's been a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad that you took the time to sit with us today. And on behalf of Upstream, thank you very much for being a part of this discussion.